will walk by faith and not by sight. That's music from Kristen and Keith Getty here on the Kevin McCullough Show. A great little tune called "By Faith" that I should have invoked on the God Thought long before now, given what we've been looking at in recent days. But I thought, hey, it's never too late to start, and a great reminder of what we're discussing as we are looking at He's God and We're Not. In the early morning God Thought here on the Kevin McCullough Show. Thank you for making us an important priority for your morning. We are grateful. We talk about three things every day on the show de KMC, and they are God, life, and news in that order for that reason. Sometimes not in that order, but always for that reason. God is the origin, the source, the foundation, the starting point of everything that we know to be true and everything that is true. Life is a gift that He's given you and I, and individually we have a responsibility to live it properly. News is usually what happens when we choose not to. I'm convinced that by going back to the basis of who God is, what He's about, understanding His kind of moral plan for the world around it, we're going to be able to change a lot of things about not only our own life, but the news that is going on around us. So, God, life, news, that's it. That's it. That's the whole ball of wax right there. And in the early morning God Thought this year, we've been going through a book by Dr. Ray Pritchard called He's God and We're Not. August 31st coming up, I'm going to have a chance to explain some pretty interesting things about this book and the chapter we've been in. Active faith releases God's power, especially in recent days, some of the definitions that we've been dealing with. But that being said, it's been an interesting study of the fifth spiritual law. If you missed the first four spiritual laws, they are simply, He's God and we're not. God doesn't need us, but we desperately need Him. God never demands something that He also doesn't supply. In other words, He always supplies that which He demands. And number four, what you seek, you find. You seek destruction, you'll find destruction. You seek peace, you'll find peace. You seek love, you'll find love. If you seek God, you will find God. And that brings us to the fifth law that we've been studying for the last several weeks. Active faith releases God's power, and this is what Ray Pritchard has for us today on that very issue. By faith, the words of that song by the Gettys, by faith, we see things that are invisible to others, and by faith, we believe in advance those things that right now make no sense, but one day will make perfect sense. Let me read that one more time. By faith, we see things that are invisible to others, and by faith, we believe in advance those things right now that make no sense, but one day will make perfect sense. And if you're asking me right this minute, Kevin, will I know absolutely how believing God, having faith, walking through this trial will bring about the understanding and have that making perfect sense that He's promising here, and I can't promise you that. I can't even promise you that your faith is real, because I don't know what your faith is in, and I don't know what your faith is focused on, and I don't know where your faith is prompting you to look to further define, enrich, finally hone the object of your faith. But I can tell you this, in my own life, in the life of my little company, in the life of my wife, in the life of our home, the life of both of my sons. One is only 15 months, the other is 26 years old. But in this life, where I have been to what I have called on this show in the past, the decade of darkness, I will tell you that there have been chapters after chapters after chapters where the only thing that I could see around me, the only thing that I could know to do, was to take that next step onto a little stepping stone. And then if I would do that, I would have just enough insight or faith or direction to see one more step ahead of me. And faith, the kind of faith that Ray's talking about, and he's explained this example to me so many times, is just taking that one step. The understanding that I can't see everything. I can't see the end of the line. I can't even see where it all ends up. I don't know what it's going to become. But I see that next step, and I take that step. Now, the interesting thing about this little analogy that Pastor Ray often has explained to me is that when you turn around and you look back, you can see all the steps from where you've been. It's just the ones going forward that have the fog. So, do you see a step today? By faith, you see the things that are invisible to others, and they may not be all that visible to you. You may only have enough insight to see what the next one step is. But you take that step. If you are clearly listening for God's leading, His guidance, His advice, His direction, because remember, in the fourth spiritual law, what you seek, you find. So if you're seeking God's input into your life, if you're having that conversation with Him saying, God, I'm not perfect, and there's a lot of things that I get wrong, but I want to be yielded to your plan. I want to make sure that I'm listening to your voice. And I want to know your voice. I want to hear your voice. I want to understand, and I want to take that step based on that, the instruction of that voice. Then, friend, by golly, take the step. Take that step of faith. It may be invisible to others. And we may be saying, well, I don't know in advance where this is going. I don't see the immediate outcome of this. This happens in a lot of different ways. I've known people that have had cancer and that have had doctors who have told them, you need radiation, you need chemotherapy, you need this, you need that. That in their particular case, they had done a great deal of reading about holistic health and vitamins and nutrition and doing some other things, and they didn't feel comfortable doing, say, for instance, the chemotherapy. Now, I'm not advising anybody to do that. That's a decision between you and your doctor. But if you have faith that you are supposed to do something naturally as opposed to take chemotherapy, then do it. If you know in your heart that that's the right thing to do and that by faith God has led you to that information and that decision. And I've known people that have done that, that actually did see their cancer go into remission. I've seen other people that knew that without a doubt chemotherapy and radiation were the thing that they had to do. And so they did. Some of those went into remission and some of those died anyway. The point is, what God is showing me to do by faith can't always necessarily be the same thing that He's going to instruct you to do, and vice versa. But by faith, we learn, we research, we listen. One of the interesting things about this is that seeing this stuff in advance that nobody else sees, it can only happen if you are clearly under the work of the Holy Spirit and clearly under the work of what God is trying to do. In other words, you must cognitively say, God, I'm anxiously awaiting your next word. In your brain, 24 hours a day, listening to your conscience, which I believe is the voice of the Holy Spirit. I think that is a powerful mechanism in your life to say, wait, oh, okay, God, that's probably not the best thing. Let's go this direction. Faith is seeing things that are invisible to others, and by faith we believe in advance those things that right now make no sense. If you listen to any of the Fortune 500 guys that have run the big companies, they will all tell you that at some point in time, they did stuff that made no sense. They had an idea, and they left their corporate, cushy situation to go over here and work on the development of this product. Didn't have a way that they were going to be able to figure it out, and didn't know if it was going to be taken care of. The guy that invented the windshield wiper did this. And then he had his idea stolen from him. But there was this incredible belief that this is the stuff I'm supposed to do. I'm supposed to invent this. I'm supposed to make this. And God ratified that in different people's lives by sending along confirmations that went along. So what again is the key? Listening to God. We as human beings much prefer to talk than listen, on a general scale. Maybe you've known people in your life that just couldn't stop talking. I'm one of those kinds of guys, most of my life. In the last 10 years, I've begged God, please let me become a better listener, to both people and to you. Listening is harder, takes longer amounts of time, but it's an understanding through the listening to what God is doing that when we make that step of faith in advance that no one else sees, it's invisible to others, it puts us on that path that when we look back out of the fog, we see the journey. And it doesn't just make sense. It makes perfect sense if it's the voice of God we've been listening to and if it's Him that we're trying to seek. Active faith releases God's power. It's a spiritual law. And it's in the book He's God, We're Not by Ray Pritchard. If you want to join the God Thought, go to thebingethinker.com. I'm Kevin McCullough, coming right back on The Kevin McCullough Show.